Hello everybody, welcome to another research video. So today we want to ascertain what's the best villager to trade with in order to get emeralds. The positive news first, unlike in the previous system where the farmer villager was by far the best option in order to get emeralds, there's no longer a clear winner, at least in my opinion. There's a handful of villager professions that are viable to trade with in order to get emeralds. The testing I'm doing is kind of from an industrial standpoint, so I want to get as many emeralds as possible, as quickly as possible. Of course, all the villager profession types are now viable in order to get some emeralds and just to get rid of some items maybe, but we really want to focus on the best villager trading hall setup. Let's also check out how the new system works. The biggest difference between the old and the new system is that in the new system, villagers won't reset their trades infinitely anymore. They will only do so twice a day. And they do that at 3 possible times: when they start working at tick 2000, the middle of the shift at 5500, and also if they stop working at 9000. But they would only do it twice a day. So let's maybe do a demonstration. I'm gonna lock this farmer here. Gonna sell some melons. Okay, trade is locked. Now I'm gonna set the time to 1960, so 2 seconds before they start working. Yeah, here we can hear the block sound, the working sound. Now the trade got unlocked. So now I'm gonna advance the time to 5400, so 5 seconds before it would reset again. And now we should also see, yeah, the trades just got reset. Can trade again. And sometimes they also do it, I think, at 9000, maybe if the AI task was busy with something else. Sometimes hear the block sound, but not in this case. But I've seen it already that they would also reset at 9000, but generally 2 times a day. Also, one side note, there's also now a dynamic supply and demand system in effect, but it seems to me that this hasn't been implemented 100% correctly yet. So I tried, for example, to sell this farmer melons for 20 trading cycles straight, and the price never changed. It was always at, you need to sell 3 melons to get 1 emerald, and this never changed. On the other hand, I tried the same with the pumpkins, and I was actually able to raise the price to 41 pumpkins are required to get 1 emerald. Then I tried the same with the wheat, but I wasn't able to change the price of the wheat. So this either requires more research, so i.e. code digging, or this hasn't been implemented correctly yet. So let's not focus on this in this video, let's just focus on the trades that the villagers offer. The trades that the villagers offer also are random now. Per tier they would add 2 additional trades. So there are 5 tiers in total. Also the villagers have certain rank. So this would be a master villager, there's a novice, apprentice, journeyman, expert as well. And the type of trade that gets offered per tier is random. So we got a pool of trades that we select 2 randomly out of. This is the example for the farmer villager. This would be the pool of trades for tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 and tier 5. It's also completely random which trade will be selected. So it's not like a buy and a sell trade would be guaranteed to be selected. So it's, for example, not guaranteed that you would be able to buy bread from a villager. 2 out of those 5 trades, which is the tier 1 pool, will be selected. For example, this villager has the wheat trade and the bread trade. This one, on the other hand, has the potato and the carrot trade. This one here has a beetroot and a bread trade. So 2 out of 5 completely random. Yeah, let's take a look at tier 2. So 2 out of those 3 trades are selected. So you can either sell pumpkins or not. Depends if you're lucky and get it. In the tier 3 it's guaranteed if you get 2 out of those 2. Tier 4, I didn't put it in, but it's actually 6 suspicious stew trades and 1 cake trade. So we select 2 out of those 7 trades. In a lot of cases you get 2 suspicious stew trades, like with this villager here. So yeah, 2 stew trades, and tier 5 is guaranteed again. You get 2 out of those 2. In some extremes, for example, with the Shepherd, there's even a pool of 35 trades per tier. So sometimes it's really unlikely to get a trade. Also, I have noticed that the Bedrock trades are apparently different from the Java trades, at least according to the Minecraft wiki. If you want a list of the full trades, I'll put it in the video description. Thanks a lot, Skyrising, for checking the code. Alright, now let's answer the question which village you want to trade with. So, definitely one goal is to get as many emeralds as possible per trading cycle. Since having hundreds of villagers would lag your game and also require quite a lot of effort. So we definitely want a villager that we can trade a lot of different materials with, that are of course also easy to get in survival. So let's take a look at the farmer first. So probably the best two trades out of the tier 1 pool is selling carrots and potatoes. Since if you would make a villager based farm, it's the easiest to get. You don't require any hopper minecarts in order to pick up seed. It's quite easy to make a potato and carrot farm. So if you want a farmer to trade with, we want one with those two trades, and there's only unfortunately a 10% chance that your farmer villager would have those two trades. Of course, we also definitely want the pumpkin trade. So that's basically a requirement for a good farmer villager. It's quite unlikely that you get those, but yeah, you can definitely get one of those. Here, for example, I got a potato and carrot trade. Unfortunately, this one didn't have pumpkins. Alright, then what's also important is how often can you trade with the villager. So in case of the potato and carrot trade, you can sell 8 of those items and get 8 emeralds in total. Then you could also sell 6 pumpkin and can also sell 6 melons. So in total, per trading cycle, you can get 30 emeralds from a farmer villager. And of course, the materials you sell are quite easy to get. So I think this is definitely a good start. It's definitely one of the best villagers you can trade with. The next one, the Fisherman, in my opinion, would be even better. But yeah, that's the hook. The items you would sell to the Fisherman mostly can be acquired from mob farms. So this might be a problem on the server where you can't really build an efficient mob farm. Of course, there you have to go back to a villager profession. You could trade with items that you can easily farm. But in general, the Fisherman would be even better. Let's take a look at the trades. Here we have all the tier 1 trades. So if you're lucky, you can sell coal and string to the Fisherman, which you can get from a spider farm and a wizard skeleton farm, or in mining of course. Then another one would be selling raw cod and emerald for cooked cod, and also buying a bucket of cod. Of course, you definitely want the first two trades, so there's a 16% chance you would get those two. And then tier 2, this would be selling raw cod, also the transform trade, so raw salmon and emerald for cooked salmon, or buying a campfire. Of course, you want the raw cod trade. So the best possible Fisherman would have the raw cod trade here and those two, and 1 out of 7.2 Fishermen would offer that. The third tier is selling raw salmon. Let's ignore that fishing rod trade. Fourth tier is actually only 1 trade. You can sell tropical fish, and this is the 5th tier, selling puffer fish and boats. It's actually quite good trade, selling 1 boat for 1 emerald. The type of boat depends on the biome. So in a normal biome, you can sell oak boats. So the Fisherman is interesting because there's a ton of trades you can use, and pretty much all of the items can be easily gotten by mob farms. For example, cod, salmon, tropical fish and puffer fish from a normal fish farm, and you can also get the boats from, for example, a tree farm, and as I mentioned, coal and string from a wizard skeleton and spider farm. Also, the amount of trades is quite interesting. Coal and string can be traded 8 times, cod and salmon 6 times, puffer fish and tropical fish 6 times as well, and also the boat 6 times. So in total, you could get 51 emeralds per trading cycle from a Fisherman, If you would only use the fish trades, in case you don't have a wizard skeleton farm, or you don't want to craft boats all the time, so if you only focus on the fish trades, you would still be able to get 28 emeralds per trading cycle. So next I want to take a look at the Mason, a new villager type that got added. And he's not really that great to trade with in order to get emeralds. So let's take a look at all the tiers. In tier 1 you could sell clay for emeralds, but getting clay is kinda hard and it's a non-renewable item, so you can't make a farm for that. So it's definitely not something you want to trade with really. Tier 2 you get the stone trade, you can do that up to 8 times. That's quite interesting, because you should have a lot of stone, or it's quite easy to make a stone farm. Tier 3 is the interesting category. If you're lucky, you can sell 2 of the rare stone types. That, of course, is not really farmable, but you usually have plenty of those if you go a lot of mining. So ideally, you would definitely get 2 out of that category, which you can also trade 8 times with. So in total, you could get up to 24 emeralds per trading cycle. Tier 4, selling nether quartz for emerald is definitely one of the worst trades in the game. Don't want to do that. And tier 5 is buying quartz pillars. So in total you can get up to 24 emeralds per cycle, compared, for example, the farmer, where you can make dedicated farms for it, and it's completely automatic and renewable. It's not that great, but in case you have a lot of stone from mining, this might be an option. The next one is a really interesting one, the Shepherd, because potentially the Shepherd is the best villager you want to trade with in order to get emeralds. Per trading cycle you could get up to 64 emeralds from the Shepherd just by selling wool and dye, but unfortunately it's really unlikely to get a Shepherd they can trade with that much, because as I already mentioned earlier, in some of the pools, for example the tier 2 pool, there are 37 entries, and only 5 out of those 37 would be item selling trades. So it's really unlikely that you get a Shepherd that you can trade with, or they can get 64 emeralds per day. It's actually only 1 out of 36,000 Shepherds would offer that. You can take a look at that one. Of course, I don't have the perfect Shepherd. This one, for example, has 2 wool trades. So this is already quite lucky for the tier 1. And tier 2, I wasn't even able to get a good Shepherd that already has 2 sell trades. So we could, for example, buy carpet or sell dye. Ideally, you would have 2 dye trades. So you would sell. Same goes for tier 3 and 4. So ideally you would sell 6 different dyes and 2 wool types, and you can do that 8 times in total. But as you can see here, I got the bad trades. So only 5 out of 21 trades in tier 3 are selling dyes. The rest is pretty much buying bats. Tier 4, same story, only 6 out of 22 trades are selling dye. The rest is buying banners. So it's just unfortunately super unlikely that you would get a good Shepherd, but potentially it would be the best villager in the game, where you can get the most emeralds per trading cycle. The next one I want to check out is the Cleric, which unfortunately is not really the best choice to trade with to get emeralds. In a tier 1 category, it starts quite well. We could trade rotten flesh in total 8 times to get an emerald. But already tier 2 is not looking that great, because you have to sell rabbit's foot to get emeralds, and that's definitely not a good trade. Of course, rabbit's foot is renewable, but it's quite tedious and slow to get it. Same could actually also be said for the gold ingot trade in tier 3. Of course, there are zombie pigment farms, but since you have to craft the nuggets into ingots in a lot of farms in the first place, probably also not that great. Tier 4 is quite interesting. You can sell glass bottles, which you can get from a witch farm for emeralds, and scoots, which, same story as the rabbit's foot, is renewable but super tedious and slow to get. And the category 4 would be selling netherwort. It's also quite interesting, but actually making a efficient netherwort farm is also quite a lot of effort. So there's some potential, but the trades are mostly too expensive. And for example, you also need to spend 32 rotten flesh by default, and I think 21 netherwort, so it's not really the best trades there. The next one, the Librarian, is kind of viable, but there are definitely better alternatives. So let's take a look at the trades. Those are the 5 tiers. Tier 1, interesting, of course, is selling paper. In the Tier 2, selling books. Tier 3, selling ink sacks. Tier 4, which are those 4 trades, would be selling a book and quill. And that's it. So 4 trades in total. You can sell paper 8 times. You can sell a book 6 times. You can sell the ink sack 8 times. And book and quill also 6 times. So in total you could get up to 26 emeralds per cycle. Of course, you need to be a bit lucky to get all of those trades in one Librarian. Only 29% of the Librarians would offer those trades. Also, it's kind of interesting, just a side note, you can also get up to 4 enchanted book trades per Librarian if you're lucky. The next one, the Butcher, is quite a highlight now. And in case you're able to make a passive mob farm, a spawning based one, is definitely the villager you want to trade with in order to get emeralds. So let's take a look at the trades. I'll put them in the chest here again. And at Tier 1, you definitely want to sell one of those 3 items, either raw chicken, raw rabbit, or raw pork chop, and definitely want to avoid the rabbit stew trade, but that shouldn't be too hard. Category 2 would be selling coal. This is, by the way, also a really good trade, in case you don't want to make a farm, just to trade the pork chop. And Tier 3 would be selling raw beef and raw mutton. Yeah. Tier 4 is also really interesting, dried kelp block, and sweet berries in Tier 5. So in total, in case you're a little bit lucky here with the Tier 1 and Tier 2 and get the trades you want, you can get 52 emeralds per cycle. And all you really need is a passive mob farm, a spawning based one for sure, and yeah, build in the right biomes, you can get all of those animals. Kelp farm is also quite easy to make, and a sweet berry farm is also quite easy to make. So in case you can build a passive mob farm, the Butcher is definitely one of the best choices in order to get emeralds. And the last villager I want to cover is the Fletcher. It's definitely not the best choice normally, but I just want to cover it because it could be viable. Could sell up to 8 sticks per trade. Then, yeah, unfortunately, the flint trade is not really that great, because the flint, of course, is not renewable, but it might have a lot of it, who knows, whatever reason. Then, of course, selling string is quite good. It's not that hard to make a efficient spider farm. Also selling feathers is definitely quite a good trade. You can get feathers, of course, from a super easy chicken farm. And the last one, selling tripwire hook, which is also renewable in case of an iron farm, and of course, for example, a tree farm, which does have a lot of wood. So in total, you could get 30 emeralds per cycle. But of course, you could argue that it might be easier to make farms for the farmer villager. But yeah, just saying the Fletcher might also be a viable alternative. What I won't cover specifically would be the armorer, the weaponsmith, the toolsmith, the leatherworker, and the cartographer. Of course, they have certain trades which are interesting, but in general, that's not the type of villager you want to trade with in order to get a lot of emeralds. Another viable alternative, of course, might be to just select the best trade for you and get a ton of villagers to trade with and cycle through. So let's say you have 1,000,000 diamonds, then get an armorer, 100 armorers, and sell it to them. The disadvantage, of course, is, okay, the diamond example is of course silly. Disadvantage is you need a ton of villagers and they're quite laggy. So if you play on a server, you really want to keep the amount of villagers as low as possible to not lag the server, or even single player. This might also not be something you would want. Also quite tedious to get a lot of villagers, I would assume. Especially if it's a random trade. Then, yeah, let's do a quick recap or overview of all the professions. So the first one, the farmer, you can get up to 28 emeralds per cycle. Advantage, farms are quite easy. Disadvantages is you might need to check a few villages in order to get exactly the potato and carrot trade, for example. Fisherman, 51 emeralds per cycle, which is one of the best values really, together with the Butcher. I don't know if this is actually advantage or disadvantage, you need mob spawns for that. So if you're playing a server, this might not be something you can easily do. And yeah, it's also moderate the randomness, or how likely is it to get a good fisherman. Mason, yeah, only if in case you have a lot of stone, that's an option. Shepherd, potentially the best villager in order to get a lot of emeralds per cycle. Farm is also quite easy to make. Wool farms and dye can easily get from either cactus farm or flower farms. Unfortunately, insanely hard to get because rare. Randomness really kills that option. Cleric, yeah, expensive trades, but you could get up to 32 emeralds per cycle. Librarian, a lot of different trades. Some require mob farm. The book and quill trade is also quite tedious because you have to sell each book and quill separately. Same actually goes also for the Fisherman. If you want to sell boats to the Fisherman, it's quite tedious to do. Then next one is the Butcher. In my opinion, the best choice in case you're in a position to make a passive mob farm. 52 emeralds per cycle. No non-stackable item trades. It's my opinion the best choice. Then Fletcher might also be an option. 30 emeralds per cycle, and also need various farms for that. Also some mob farms. Alright, that pretty much sums it up. Of course, we're still in the snapshots, and this might also change. Thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.